we start again.
Okay, I'll go.
because I was just preparing and I had no script or anything. What I want to say. Okay, but yeah, cool.
Do you know what you want to say?
Good evening.
Good evening, man.
We talked today about your journey the last 6 months. Really interesting. What was going on? Great journey with a lot of ups and downs, learnings. Very valuable experiences in that time. Dreamdriven played also a role in that journey proudly. And I think first of all, it would be the greatest to just reflect on that 6 months that we had in general, how it started, where we right now, and yeah.
So 6 months, I had an idea. Technically, our journey started, I think, a little bit earlier before when we got in touch on LinkedIn, and from there we came to the whole process of there where it really started, and also the change of what was supposed to happen to what happened in action. I think that was also interesting. But if we go back, let's recollect where we were. So 6 months ago, around August, it was around August or so, end of August, September. That was
when the batch started.
Yeah, we started at the beginning of it. But around a little bit before August, Fine Tools came to fruition. The whole idea of, after being passionate about the world of finding tools, looking for the optimal solution and match for whatever use case somebody may look for. So it started with many people, a lot of different adventures and perspectives that came in. It was a fascinating time to get to feel the passion of other entrepreneurs, to be in a space which expressed entrepreneurship. And you can really feel it in the walls, and you can feel everything was new and was a part of your own venture in that direction of starting Dreamdriven in this perspective, or taking that direction to it. And with all that excitement, and then starting the first few weeks of understanding where we are, where I am, understanding where I want to take Fine Tools forward. And it started from a relatively broad direction, and we focused it a little bit during that process. And after that, we started really dived in relatively quickly after a week or two of, because I already focused up before, so we focused a little bit more to understand, okay, where can we already provide the value? And we started working a few weeks, and then we started building the first proof of concept of understanding how we use AI with our specific idea and how it goes forward. From there, we did a few more weeks. It was a bit longer than expected. We had different challenges, as every startup has. And throughout the months, it became less and less people, and it became more and more intimate. And it was quite a journey, and it was a privilege to be one of the entrepreneurs to continue on after the first few months, to continue on the journey together, and going from prototype, proof of concept, to MVP number 1, to MVP number 2, and arriving to where we are today, which is possibly another direction which we're moving forward to. And I think that it's great to be able to adapt, and having partners on the way that support the direction, that support the idea, that support me as an entrepreneur and believe in me and not only in the idea. And that was a great experience. And one of the things that I really liked about Dreamdriven is you as a partner, I think, in this, and having that supportive, that structure, that nice friend that I could just chat to, more than just a partner in more of the business aspect. Or we could also, as a friend, okay, so we'll dive into market research together, and that was fun in that aspect. Or just jumping some ideas around and experiencing that. And and I think that the connection between you and me, between Fabi, Noor, Mark, all the team at Dreamdriven, later down the line also AJ, a little bit of Ashish, And a lot of I know for my side, also Massa that worked with me a little bit. So I had a lot of people working on that side. Also Latif Sem, and were also a great team just in general, great energy, great vibe. And another thing that I really appreciated was the consciousness focused and self growth oriented that Dreamdriven is, and being able to first be people and then go to the other side, and to always know how to take feedback and not being shy of taking the truth and taking things deep, and weighing those things and feedback in, and not just pushing it aside or saying, okay, we're going to take care of it, but actually taking care of it and looking into it. And yeah, so that was, I think, in short, relatively the insights or summarization of my time. And if you'd like me to ask anything else, then sure,
Yeah. Today's AMA, what we call Ask Me Anything.
Ask me anything, no problem.
Coming from the Web3.
Asaf Mano, something with a name.
Classical one, like the biggest learning from the last 6 months. No learnings.
No, but we're learnings, but I'm trying to think about the biggest one, right? I can give you different.
So give me the top 3 or like whatever comes to your mind.
I'll give you whatever comes to mind, but I'm not just it's the biggest one. It's
Okay.
what comes to mind. I think that diving. I think we talked a lot about this about the micro size. I'm talking about the focus and the niche. And I think that it's important to understand where you want to head in that aspect, at what scale. It's hard at the beginning, especially when you're new to the field or you're searching a field or you're looking to a specific direction. And really, once you understand really that little bit of thing and focusing on the niche as much as possible to start with, and from there, growing. And it's not always possible to know the niche because during the process, you're learning more about the user. You're saying, okay, there's a more of a subgroup, a sub persona, a sub thing. And I think that would be something that I would try to emphasize even more in the future. It's something that I knew in the past, but I think that right now the emphasis of bringing it into practice more, building the smallest product that you can. Like MVP is great, but building the MVP for the smallest group that you can and proving that they find value in it, and then expanding to other directions. For example, you may focus a target group. Like we talked, Flying Tools at the beginning started with like students and start solopreneurs, and to be honest, even before it started, even a little bit of a larger audience. But then we focused a little bit to that direction and only content creation tools and not all tools. And I think that right now, for example, focusing on a really small segment of content creation tools, for example, but within a small segment of itself. So if it's in e-commerce, if it's in other business, if it's in, I just give just food, for example, content creators in the food industry, and focusing a really specific one. Is it the users that are looking for something, that know what they're looking for, or the people that are just inspired and looking without knowing precisely what they're looking for? There's a huge market for both, but you just need to understand which one to focus more. The more you focus, the easier it is to validate your pain idea, and from there to grow forward and to also build what is really necessary. I think that would be one of the bigger ones in general.
Yeah, that's also a learning I have in the last. Yeah, I would also say in the last half year, because it's great, and we as humans, we want to go for the biggest, or like most of us, and then being actually humble and say like, no, I actually, it comes down to essential things. I live in the moment right now, and what provides value, and what is like not so blown up show, and is like nice to you, and like is giving you that adrenaline kick all the time, because it's going to be the biggest platform, it's going to be the biggest SaaS, and you like cater all the people, not only like this little group, because that's what you deserve. That's what, you know, you're here for big things. And this leads a lot of time to people not executing, actually, to say like, okay, maybe, you know, operations, this kind of thing, or I'm meant to be for more strategy, for more bigger things. And yeah, I think 100% agree. If you really love what you're doing, and it's no problem to go out and speak to the people and just make it for 10 people that love it and that use it. Maybe you don't earn money, but you, like in the beginning, but really quickly you're providing value, and that turns into something. And yeah, dare to go that route, I think is very, very important. And also to some kind of saying, okay, value first, and what comes then, how we're scaling and so on, is the next step. But we don't care about that too much. Yeah.
You can also build a business from those 10 people, right? If those 10 people are from a specific persona,
Yeah.
so you can work with that, and it's profitable relatively quickly. But the amount of essence that you would need to put in, and the amount of work you need to elaborate and build something around it, would be much less than what you'd expect to if you built a full-fledged whole solution. Or even at the MVP level, sometimes it is the MVP and an all-in-one solution to some extent, but not in our case, at least. It wasn't. But,
Yeah. What would you have done? I mean, this also is kind of like relating to biggest learning, but what would you do in your next venture except that differently?
I think it would depend on the venture, the scale of venture, the circumstance, a lot of things would take into consideration what I would do differently, per se.
Okay.
I don't think that there was anything that I would specifically say, well, I was wrong in the way that I did it, because at the time that I took the decision, it felt like the right thing to do. Retrospectively, okay, you're not specific, possibly outsourcing earlier would be, I think, beneficial to utilize, possibly not holding on resources per se, knowing how to use the resources smartly. But this is also something that it's not that I didn't know about it. It's something that I knew about, but it emphasized the importance of focusing on quality rather than on saving, because you're never saving. Your something is going to come instead. If you take a professional to do a specific job, it may take you a tenth of the time. It may cost 5 to 10 times more, but it's going to be 10th of the time. So that is where I would emphasize getting that quality. Maybe speaking with, if you're diving into a space which you don't know, for example, more into the world of AI, speaking with somebody from AI early down the line, saying, okay, well, it's too complex. Let's try to see if there's a smarter way to do this, even if it means paying for advice from a key person, because that could save things later down the line, or even understanding if you're on the scale or not.
Yeah, I think that's something that, yeah, everybody that is starting out is facing, because in the end, in the beginning, you're depending on like what you have done before and if you have a network and so on. But like the really moment you start and think about, okay, this could be a cool problem space, you have nothing. And then of course it's about like how do you move quickest, actually, because it's about moving quickly for yourself to save your resources. Everybody's in different circumstances. Time is ticking for a lot of people that don't have the financial situation to be there living for more than 3-5 months. So you have to really push. And the question is always, okay, you get somebody in, you get resources that are cheaper for now, and but are they really worth it? And of course, you can't say from the beginning on, yeah, you pay a developer full time or anything, and yeah, always weighing that like
Balance.
balance. But I think also, yeah, tending not tending towards and being also yourself that worth, that you say, okay, I get that advice, because that saves me a lot of time. And we talked about it this afternoon, to say like, one little trick, or what I think a lot of entrepreneurs should do that don't earn money in the beginning, is to give yourself a hypothetical like hourly wage, and then see, okay, like, you would earn 100 euros per hour, and now you spend 4 or 5 hours doing, for example, data entry, and like this is 500 euros, because like, depending of course on how experienced you are, but bold enough to say like, in the industry I would earn, yeah, something similar. And then the opportunity cost is then, I think, suddenly realized more dramatically, and then you're okay with, because in the end it's real, because everything you do has an opportunity cost. And yeah, so I think also from my side, I'm tending more towards like spending early on, or investing more in the right sources actually, and yeah, more money than more time. To say like, okay, I spend 1,000 in the next 2 weeks, but otherwise it would take me 4 weeks. So
Yeah.
and, time is always the thing that you don't count.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Um, for Dreamdriven, if you could recommend a friend to Dreamdriven, if you want to, who would be that friend? Like what stage, which attitude, maybe also like, which people would you recommend to Dreamdriven?
I think it would be best. I think it's a little bit complex to answer, because I think that where Dream Driven began and where Dream Driven is today are different target audiences per se.
I think speaking for no means most.
Yeah, so now it's a little bit harder even than where I was, because I know what I went through, but am I sure that I'm the right profile for somebody right now? So these are the complex questions. I do think that somebody that has, so you could separate the two different kind of users. Like you can compare many different users, but let's say about the stage. I'm not so sure that ideation is a stage. I think that a little bit later down the line, when you already have between the prototype and proof of concept, which you already have to some extent, to wanting to possibly go to the market in that aspect. I believe that pre-seed would be the pre-seed, or before, whatever is before, would be the target. I think that the person that would want, or that would fit possibly here, would be somebody that is relatively conscious about.
What does conscious mean?
Conscious, I think that, and that was what I was about to explain, but I think it's understanding a little, to some extent, well, I don't know if conscious, but let's say somebody that understands to some extent what he wants, who are they, and willing to take in their disadvantages and advantages, and understanding where he's strong, where they're weak, and or she, doesn't matter, of course, or any other pronoun, like, and knowing where they want to head, and having a clear vision. Being self growth oriented, I think, is also important. Knowing how to get feedback. I think that they should be relatively within this house. I think that especially, or within this program, because it's already expanding from the house. So somebody that's really excited, a relatively high energy,
vegetarian lifestyle will be kept wherever we are.
You know, vegetarian, like I'm all for conscious eating, right? And I think that that's part of the conscious, which I meant, is people that are relatively, I don't know if altruistic, but people that care about the environment, people that care about themselves, people that are relatively positive, the positive mindset, the do mindset, willing to fail a lot. And I think that's in general every entrepreneur. Most of these things would be for every entrepreneur, but for the specific stage and some, I think that also some people which don't know what they need and not need to some extent would also, there would be a target audience which would be fine, which they would possibly utilize the venture builder to understand what they need and what they don't need and also get that provided to them. There's also a segment which know exactly what they need, which is fine as well. Well, if you just if you need just funding, I'm not so sure this venture builder is for that. Because I think the venture builder, part of the venture builder in general, would be providing you the sources that you need to get to that next step, which in this case funding could be, but for pre-seed level funding or angel investing would be even better. But I believe that hopefully coming out of the venture builder, you already have something like a profit of sorts and some resources coming in that possibly could grow the business. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah. So basically, do you have questions?
You already answered most of them. Like, where are we heading next? I know where I am heading next. I know where we are heading next. I know where you're heading next. So, you know, it's. Do you think that there's a different kind of profile that you'd be looking for?
What you just mentioned? No, I think what you said, what was most like not shooting into my heart, but like was like interesting words and which I felt from heart was like caring about yourself, because I think that's something to be able to love yourself, because this is the fundament for like a long haul and like really engage what we said earlier in the moment and to accept things as they are, because I think here Dreamdriven, this place for people who try to compensate something through extreme growth, this is not the place. And I think this is something that we try to put it as heart-centered pioneers or something. And for example, public funding impact startups, but like generally like putting it more political or so, or in more official terms, it's hard, or it's not hard to phrase, but I didn't find like a really nice expression that is really hitting the nail of what we're doing, and heart-centered pioneers, to say like, okay, these people follow their heart, they love themselves, this is the closest to and I think the fundament for everything else, because I think anything else is playing is saying hard, because there are great problems that cannot be solved on this planet, but in the end, what do we really need? I think if we breathe and go back to us and realize and are grateful for all what we have, even realizing the fresh air, then like already 90% of things what we think we need is going to be cut. And then and this is why I'm saying a lot of things is playing, because of course it's cool to build a lot of things, but be conscious about that. It's a game in some cases, or in most cases. I think it's important.
Thank you.
So we.
Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful, and yeah.